So in the previous code along, we had a activity, first activity, and we went to second activity and back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What are we going to do here?
Well, moving between what you're doing is fine, but being able to actually pass data around when you're doing something different is way better. So we're going to be doing that.
So what are you looking at now? You're taking the button for detail activity?
Yeah, I'm just like trying to figure out, okay, what button is that? What's its name?
Mm-hmm.
Go detail activity. Because that's going to be the one that actually is the one where we're going to pass data to. And you do this a lot when you're making applications that kind of dig into some data. So you'll have something where like an email. Okay, that's the headline of the email. Show me now the detail of what the actual text is, or
Sure. Like in one pane you have the list of emails, in another pane you have the actual content of each email.
Yeah. You also do it, whenever you want to just select, let's say, I have a housing application. I'm looking at rental properties, and you're like, oh, that one looks cool. You press it, and you see more detail. So it's really important to be able to give people this navigation a lot, where it's like, hey, here's one screen to take a look and see what I'm doing, and then here's a screen to actually see more detail of what I want to do.
So are you actually going to pass in the details you want to see, or are you going to pass in the name of the original activity so that it knows what details to show?
Well, what you want to do when you're passing stuff around is you don't really want to necessarily throw a lot of data around. You really want to pass a reference. So in this case, I think I'm just going to be using like a simple string in a key value pairing. But normally, you want to have one data class, separation of concerns, have all the different data, and you just it's best to like pass a number around. Mm-hmm. It's like the person selected the third item. Oh, okay, well, I'll go see what the third item is and show more detail about the third item.
Now you've got on create options menu. You had three methods there.
Right. So the first ones are actually the second two are actually just to populate that little menu kind of up at the top. And I'm just kind of keeping them with the code for clarity's sake. But the onCreate method is really what we want to pay attention to. So as you can see here, we have to, again, put in the actual activity in the manifest because otherwise, you can't access it. You have to register for that. So after I do that, we're going to access it just the same as we would before. This is pretty much how you can put as many activities in one project available for the whole Android operating system.
Is it typical to have this many activities in an application? Oh,
you can have tons of activities, yeah. With fragments, people tend to now use a lot of fragments rather than activities. But yeah, I've seen applications that have 50 different activities. It just depends on how complex your application is. I particularly like to create simple apps that do, a very purposeful single thing, and really like to keep that stuff at around 5. But if you make a complex app, you can get hundreds. The Google I/O guys app, which is a great example of kind of how to write an app, does the typical Java thing of having just tons and tons of different activities for different uses.
So here you are. Typecasting the Go Detail activity as a button?
The button to the Go Detail activity.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to go ahead and set up a listener for that so that when we click it, it does something. I like how when you click on things in the view window, it actually shows you what XML it responds to. It's so much easier to navigate.
Yeah, good feedback there.
Yeah. So, same thing that we've done before. I love this. We get the type a little bit of it, and bam, all that stuff is just gonna throw itself up there, and we're gonna do something a little different here. It's gonna look very similar to line 29, but this is how you pass data for the first time. You excited?
I'm waiting for it.
Yeah, here we go. And it really, actually, the intent system in Android is really, really cool because it makes it so much easier to pass things around without having to know, what's on the other side.
Mm-hmm. So compared to line 29, we have the same thing up until here.
Yeah, well, same thing. We get a context and we got to tell it where to go. I mean, where's the address? Detail activity. Mm-hmm. And here's where things are gonna start to change. Wait for it.
You're just pausing.
Yeah, just
dramatic effect.
No, I had to decide how many keywords I wanted to put in front of it. So I'm creating an enumeration.
What's that?
An enumeration is a way to basically, it's much easier to use numbers. And it's also really hard to read and remember that 1 equals something. So you usually will create these enumerations, which will be all caps, snake case like that. And they're just ways of kind of specifying, a couple of different items. Whether or not a thing is of maybe 3 different types of things. You don't want to actually put 1, 2, 3 because that's very poor readability. So we actually defined some final ints to represent that.
Interesting. Now, back in the first chapter, I said they're not going to use snake case. So apparently I lied.
Well, they're not going to use snake case.
I was right for about 9 chapters.
Well, that's not snake case because that's all caps.
Oh, okay. I don't even know if there's a name for that.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know either. We should make up a name for it.
Big snake case.
Big snake case. So here's
where you're doing it.
This is just a key value pair. There's a key for sending, and then there's a value, which you can't see now because I started talking about this right when that pop-up went up. And I'm going to use a different method, start activity for result.
Okay.
This is like saying, hey, I'm going to start something different, but come back.
Okay.
It's a very common thing you want to do. So again, you have put extra. So we have
41.
We have a key and then a value.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to use that intent as the first parameter. But then we're also going to use that detail request enumeration. Mm-hmm. And that's going to allow us to know, really what kind of request are we sending? Are we sending something to go get a picture? Are we sending it to do more detail? So when you start using activity for result, you actually want to define oh, wait, what is this behavior? Why am I sending this data out there? And you'll see where that gets used as we go on. Now this is a little odd in terms of receiving the data. So it was really easy to put it in the intent. But now we're going to do something that's strange. You're going to see a lot of new data types.
So you put it in the intent in second activity?
Yes.
Okay. So now, because second activity has the button for detail activity.
Yes. So what's going to happen now, we're going to do a lot of unpacking. In our detail activity, which was started with that intent,
right.
We get the intent and we unwrap that. And in there we have this bundle object. And then in the bundle object, we're going to unwrap that because you can store all different types of things in an intent.
Now, this is not the same bundle that comes with the onCreate method.
No, that one is called save instance state.
Yeah,
but it is a data type that basically saves a bunch of bundles of different pieces of data, so that you can either restore your activity state, or in this case, change it based upon something. So, and this is again how you get it. It's very similar to what they're eventually going to see for parsing stuff, where you have get string. So you're actually defining what kind of data comes out, which is a string, and then you just name the key type, or not the key type, but the key. But it is important when you're doing this stuff to be very careful about checking to make sure that you're getting values back, because you could actually have somebody not give an intent, or they give you an intent but they didn't actually give you the data you were looking for.
Right. So setting the result from getString on the bundle extras to detail value, and then inserting it into make text with the toast function.
Yeah, we're just going to pop it up. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was really easy to kind of just stick it in there. But yeah, there's one extra level of getting it out of the intent, and that's that bundle object.
Right. Now that failed.
Well, that failed because GetEmotion totally screwed up. So I'm gonna quit it. This is a great trick at home. If you ever have GetEmotion not do what you want, What you do is you just quit it and start it up again. It's the fastest way to troubleshoot anything. It's kind of like the IT crowd. Have you tried turning it off and on again? These tools are cutting edge, and sometimes they are a little flaky. But that one I've seen a bunch with the graphics driver starting to complain.
Yeah, and we've had broken pipe before in previous projects.
Mm-hmm. So we will make a toast in a minute here. We will get there.
Maybe Genymotion just needs to hire a plumber
To just get
for
it
all
unstuck.
their broken pipes.
All their broken pipes. Yeah.
Currently can't send your message.
That's something else. There we go. Some data
from second activity. Okay, but it was the same toast format.
Yeah, I don't know what that came from. That might have been like the toast was left in the queue. Not sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you saw how we sent some data, and then in the next activity we got it. So now we can actually move things around, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're not just stuck to, I can write an activity. Now I can make an activity really communicate with other activities.
And that's really cool because then you get that functionality you were describing before, where a user can select a certain button, right, and trigger. Oh, okay, this event actually has like there's some value to this, and this is the context in which I'm pushing that button for.
Yeah. Well, when you're making a choice to do something, you definitely want to take advantage of the fact that you gave that person a choice and do something cool. And this is kind of like once you get the baseline of this back and forth, then you can start making basically all the other stuff. This is like the most fundamental kind of Android stuff is right. How do we move around the OS?
And so where was the actual message stored?
The message was stored inside the intent on a bundle object that was received with the method call getExtras.
Okay. So it's packed up in there a bit.
Yeah. So now here we're going to do something kind of fun. We're going to do the return flight.
We're going to fly?
We're going to fly. We're going to fly inside of the Android OS.
Ooh.
So, same kind of thing. Bam, we get our listener. Now, by the way, please don't ever use return intent. It's trying to be explicit, but keywords for variable names is never good.
Okay. Yeah, return. I've seen that one before.
Yeah. But notice how like I've just created an intent that's just now blank in a way. It's not like how we did things before.
You've initialized an intent.
Mm-hmm. But we didn't specify where it's going.
Right. We're missing the context.
Mm-hmm. The context and the like detail activity.class.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're going to do is that spinner selection. We're gonna actually take some data out of that and return it.
What is the spinner?
A spinner is like kind of like a drop-down box with a bunch of different items.
Okay.
So here I have in the strings XML, I've actually just put in a list of items that it's connected to. As you can see, Android entries there has that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect up the spinner so that when someone selects something, that we use that to return back to the second activity. So it'd be like, again, if you had a detail screen and you're like, which one of these things do you want to do? That one. And then, being able to return back to where you came from with that selection now kind of saved.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I've paused because what I want to do is when you press the return button, get a reference to what was selected in the spinner.
Mm-hmm.
But I realized at that point, like, oh, right, I need to get the selection.
You need to actually have the object.
I have to connect those wires, yeah. Yeah, I don't know why they call it a spinner, because
it's very confusing.
It doesn't actually like wrap around.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't spin like the, I'm thinking computer spin ball.
No, it's really like a drop-down box. I don't know why it's called that.
You know what? It could be like a hamster wheel. You know how that spins, and each of the wheel rungs is a bit of information or selectable.
But that repeats all the way around though.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
And this doesn't.
And this doesn't.
Okay.
No.
And it's poorly named. That is my judgment.
I'll write a letter on your behalf.
We have a lot of letters to write.
We do. So here we go. We're taking an intent. We're doing the same thing we did when we were first talking to the second activity, right? So we're using that put extra thing. And again, we have all different types of things for what the value is. We got to use a string for the key still. So I'm using a different key now, key for returning. So I've gotten the particular item, whatever it is as a string, and I'm sticking that inside of the intent. And this is where you basically can say, okay, this is the result of someone took a trip over to this activity. Because remember, we did start activity for result, not just start activity. And just kind of like a web service, like where you have like 404 not found or whatever. We also want to say like the result was yes. Take a look at this.
Okay, yeah.
And then finish basically ends the activity. It stops a cycle and then it goes back in the back stack. You're literally finishing this activity.
Does that mean the activity will be paused or it will just that it will not be visible anymore? What would the state of the activity be after a finish?
The state of the activity, I believe, would be destroyed. It would definitely be stopped.
Okay.
I would have to actually check because I'm not sure exactly what on activity result might do. I would assume it's destroyed.
Okay.
So now we are implementing or overriding on activity result. And so when we come back in to this activity, this method's going to get called in the lifecycle.
Mm-hmm. You're just killing the super.
Yeah. No, because I know what I want to do with this information. I don't need anybody else to do anything with it.
What do you want to do with this information?
I don't remember what I wanted to do with this information, but at the time I had a goal.
Okay. I bet you can figure it out again.
Probably display it in some way.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I'm making sure, like, hey, make sure the request was okay, and also make sure it came from. So remember how we did the detail request,
right?
So now, because I mean, I could have asked for a camera thing, I could have asked for a detail thing, but making sure, like, hey, yes, I got data, which is result okay, and it came from the detail request. Then do this stuff, and I'm being, of course, paranoid appropriately of just saying, oh, and there actually is the data there,
right?
Because you just never can
just in case,
yeah. And so you can do that. It has that particular piece of data. This is a much more efficient way than the other way I was showing about checking to make sure something is there. Mm-hmm. It's more readable, and then we can actually just get it.
Great. Any reason why you did a nested if as opposed to multiple conditions in that first?
Readability.
Yeah.
So yeah, now we have basically the whole loop, right? We went out, we came back, and this is how you can move data back and forth. So you can select stuff and have, a more detailed activity change kind of the state of things and pass between activities without being dependent on another class. So you can even do this with other people's apps, and we'll get into that for implicit intents.
Okay.
But before we get there, it's just, your apps, you could now reuse your second activity or detail activity, right? You could just use it again, and this intent system allows you to just kind of clearly define what it's concerned with and pass data back and forth. So sure enough, I'm probably now going to show the data.
Now actually display it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you get create your text view.
Yep, doing our find view, cast it. Again, all in the onCreate, setting up everything in the onCreate.
Now, as they're working at home, they should definitely try to do this first before they try to get too crazy and create their own views, right?
Oh yeah. If you can get through this, then you can probably build, well, with the exception of list views, you can probably build like, I don't know, 50% of the apps you might have had in your head, because now you can do the basics of showing different activities. Once you get to list views, it's like 70%. And then,
right. And then it's 5% increments from there.
No. It goes directly to 95 after you can do the network. Then it goes to 5, like 0.05. Yeah. And so, this isn't as explained as well on Google's site, but as you can see, we're just showing that works.
That's the first part.
An activity for result does work.
Yet.
You got
some data from second activity. Now we go back.
Notice nothing selected yet still, because the back button, it didn't give us a result.
Yeah.
Right? So nothing selected yet. But if we actually return with something, then that comes back. So the back is actually working like a cancel. So we kind of got that feature for free.
Mm-hmm.
Take picture. Again, it changes to take picture. Visit our website. Go back. It still take picture.
Got it. And so you can use the back button as that catch-all in the end for just, I'm just going to cancel that if that's how you want to set it up.
Yeah.
Excellent.